Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning, Thursday, July the 10th. This will be the day that Celtic and Brendan Rodgers will really get down to business when it comes to pre-season training. It's the day that Celtic will start involving more of the first team players that have been missing for the last two pre-season games. They're obviously games that Brendan Rodgers likes to, and he has done in previous seasons, as we've seen. He uses as many of the B team as possible. They're never good games to watch, but it does allow Brendan Rodgers to see what players may have the quality to step up, and it's good for it. It gives them an opportunity to see how far the players have progressed in the last year. And Brendan Rodgers is happy with the way that some of them have progressed, but a lot of them may not have travelled to the training camp because that will be their part in pre-season at Celtic done in the first team. Yep, they'll be going back to the B team and they will do their training session. They may have travelled to Portugal, and I don't know if the rest of the B team have travelled, but I very much doubt it. It's Celtic, we know the way they are. But anyway, transfer news and transfer speculation. There is 3 players that Brendan Rodgers will want in as soon as possible. One side that's almost done deal, one signing that's almost a done deal, who has, it's been said he is travelling to Celtic as it stands, Shin Yamada. The deal has been agreed, and it looks like the Balwishka one may come to fruition also, with a defender, a defender to come to Celtic. That's the 3 positions that Brendan Rodgers will want in as soon as possible. I think that we can all say that. We all know that Celtic, it is positions that Celtic do need players in. Shin Yamada reportedly agreed his move to Celtic, and following his international commitments with Japan. It's funny that he's coming to Celtic because he got his first international cap, and he is a striker, and he could possibly be the person that keeps Kyogo Furuhashi out the international team. And the irony that would be. Kyogo Furuhashi, a player who wanted to leave Celtic to improve his international prospects, has ended up down in Birmingham. And I can't see his international prospects doing much good down there. But you never know. But the irony would be unbelievable if we did bring in a player who ultimately went on to take his position as striker for the national team. The 1.5 million switch for the 25-year-old is Brendan Rodgers is looking to beef up our forward line. Adam Ida has been left out pre-season games, as Brendan Rodgers says they don't want to risk him. He's the only striker that we have, so there's no use risking him at this early stages of pre-season. Just keep him fit and keep him ticking over. The match fitness and everything will come at the other training camps. Callum Osmond, he is one for the future, let's face it. I'm going to be honest about that. He will be in and around the first team, but he's definitely not taking over from from Adam Ida, and he's definitely not taking over from Dyson Maeda, is he? He just doesn't look that kind of player at all. He's still young and he's still learning. Listen, if he was coming through the B team at Celtic and he was stepping up this season, we'd all expect him to be 3rd, 4th choice striker. So we can understand why Celtic are trying to bring in Shin Yamada, who has a little bit more experience. Anyway, with that deal, the fact that they're saying it has been agreed, it'll just be interesting to see. Japan's final fixture they have is on the 15th of July against South Korea, it said, and he will then travel to Celtic then. So you're not going to see him this weekend, but you will see him hopefully next week at Celtic. With the fact that we are in the search for a winger, reports from Belgium says that Balwishka has went missing in training. I always think there's one part of me that will say yes, that's good because it's the player. And when you think back to the whole situation with the Brøndby player, a player that knew of Celtic interest for 2 or 3 seasons but didn't push to get the deal done. If Balwishka's pushing to get the deal done, fair play to him. But the other side of it, you think back to players like Pierre van Hooijdonk that went missing in training, and you know, there's that side of it as well. Sometimes if a player is like that to get to you, is it the best player to be bringing to the club? It is a player that we have been linked with for a while, and it looks like he didn't take part in the Wednesday's training session. It could be the fact that he's ready to come to Celtic, but he did say that he was struggling with certain things. But we'll wait and see. And then there's a defender. Celtic will need to pay a hefty amount to get a decent defender in. The fact is that when you look at the defenders that we have at the club at the moment, Cameron Carter-Vickers is still out injured. Stephen Welsh is now out injured as well, which leaves us Alistair Johnson and his backup, Tony Ralston. It leaves us Kieran Tierney and his possible backup, Hayato Inamura. And that's a bit of a shock one, because Brendan Rodgers said, look, he didn't think he was going to be in the first team. But I think after watching the game the other night, everyone sort of sat back and went, wow, he's a bit of a player. He's not there where Greg Taylor was, but he played the Greg Taylor position really well. He played the Greg Taylor position fantastically well. I know it was a pre-season game and it was against Cork, and Cork are 3/4 of the way through their season or something. But, do you know, sometimes Celtic go out and find these absolute bargains and they change their mind. And I think that he will be one to watch this season to potentially be the most improved player if he does get the game time. Brendan Rodgers said he needs to bulk up a bit, but that's fine. Just get him in the gym every day, Brendan, and get him in the gym with you. You like to work out in the gym after training. And then when we look at the final two positions in the defence, you're then stuck with Austin Trusty and Liam Scales going into the new season as your main defenders. And Cameron Carter-Vickers obviously coming back from an operation. We need to see how quick he comes back from that. And will he be ready for the start of the season in less than a month's time? A lot of people will be thinking, you know, there's a lot of important games at the very beginning of the season. Not only have we got a Champions League qualifier, we've got the Premier Sports Cup game to come as well. A game that we were put out in Brendan Rodgers' first season at Celtic. And are you really convinced? Are you really convinced that those are the two players to take Celtic forward in 3 competitions and be successful very early on in the season? I'll say a little prayer for us now then. But yeah, so it's understandable why Brendan Rodgers and Celtic are trying to get replacements in for the back two. The midfield, we know all about that. It's all going to depend where Kwon goes out on loan. And the big question still has to be asked. Can we keep a hold of Rio Hatate and Dyson Maeda before the end of the season? Now there's the whole we spoke about Johnny Kenny last night. He spoke to the media. And he said, look, I'm happy to sign a new deal. I've spoke to Brendan Rodgers. He's asked me if I want to sign a new deal. It looks like he will go out on loan to get more game time. And is Callum Osman better than Johnny Kenny? I wouldn't say so. But Callum's obviously came in to be that 3rd/4th choice striker at Celtic. Brendan Rodgers doesn't want to put him down to the B team because that's when you lose players. That's a whole conversation for another day. I think we're going to do a video about the B team today, actually, and about the unsuccessful stint that we've had from the B team over the last 5 to 10 years. The last 5 years anyway. It's been a bit of a disaster, the B team, hasn't it? And then there's several players that are still in and around the first team that Brendan Rodgers will think that are surplus to requirement. One of them is obviously Lewis Palmer. Where does his future lie? With Odom Ohm still being out on loan until the end of December, he doesn't come back to December. Brendan Rodgers won't be worrying about him at all because he's still in America doing his thing. But it does say that Celtic are still in the market. I mean, Brendan Rodgers did say that he was in the market for a midfielder, he suggested. Who do you drop out of the midfield? Or is there going to be a little bit of a formation change this year? Is there going to be a little bit of a formation change? When you look at the game the other night, there was at points there was 2 players playing up through the middle and as strikers, sort of 2-point attack rather than the one through the middle and then the 2 wingers outside. I think Brendan Rodgers will obviously still use the wingers, but will he use them sort of further back in a midfield and use a midfield player, an attacking midfield player, central midfield player, in a more forward role? Or will he use a striker in that role like he's done before at Celtic? Will he use a striker just sort of one up front and then you can push the 2 of them? I don't know. There's a lot of things to be decided. But this is when Brendan Rodgers makes his money. This is when he sets out the tactics for the team for the summer. This is when Brendan Rodgers wants the players in, because the next 4 games, was it 4 or 5 games that we've got? There's 4 games set up, but then there's another one that we're going to play in Italy, depending if we can beat Ajax. There's a lot of business to be done still, and there's a lot of games to be played. The season is creeping up on us very, very quickly. Brendan Rodgers will need to work his magic, not only with the players, but with the board upstairs, to make sure that they get the players in that Brendan Rodgers ultimately wants in for the season. When you look at it, the squad isn't much stronger than last year as it currently stands. Sun Yamada, when he comes in a week or so's time, it will be a fantastic addition. A lot of people are saying, they're not convinced the way that the transfer window has went, that there will be more players to come in rather than just those three. It could be about 5-6 players still to come in minimum as Brendan Rodgers builds a squad. A lot of them will not be first choice picks, but when you look at the way that the squad is thinned out a bit, it kind of beefed up, but there's a lot of players left. The B team players, we'll see which ones of them can actually make that step up into the first team. Tell me in the comments which players you think can step up into the first team from the B team, and do you think Brendan Rodgers will sign a new contract? Tell me that in the comments. Anyway, on that note, as a quick one this morning, because the gardener's going to be here when I normally do a live, and the last thing you want is to hear the gardener out there with their strimmers and stuff. Anyway, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.